Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 1 Million Cups. All right, let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. There we go, so much better. Again, welcome to 1 Million Cups. I'm Milton Jeffrey. I'm one of the organizers here, and we've got Zach, Anna, Stephanie, and Courtney here with me. Want to welcome any of our first-time visitors today. If you're here for the first time, just kind of wave your hand so we can see who you are. All right, let's give them a round of applause today. Thanks so much for coming. Now, if you're one of our 1 Million Cups veterans, let's see your hands as well. All right, awesome. Glad to have you guys back with us today. So for the first-time visitors, I'll tell you real quick. 1 Million Cups is essentially an educational program created by the Kauffman Foundation. Each week we have two presenters come and they tell their story, two entrepreneurs. They'll come and tell their story about their entrepreneurial journey. They'll talk for 6 minutes, and then we open it up to the audience and to our panelists to ask them questions for about 15 to 25 minutes. And in that time, if you've got a question, you can raise your hand. We'll be running around with microphones, and we'll come and let you ask your question as well, because we love audience participation. So before we get started, I would like to introduce our two panelists today. I've got the pleasure of also introducing the FCC, the head of the FCC, Ajit Pai, is here with us as an expert panelist today, and also Brent Concord. So I'm going to let you guys just stand up real quick, tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, good morning there, everybody. My name is Brent. I'm from Bloom. I'm here this morning to help out and just to hear what Payit and some of our other guests this morning have to talk about, their businesses, and to help kind of from the business side say, and the technology side say, hey, how can we make your company better and stronger for the community and for what we're all trying to do, which is grow our startups and our businesses together. So thanks for having me.
Hey, my name's Ajit. I'm the requisite suit in the room. Sorry about that. But I'm one of the 5 commissioners of the Federal Communications Commission, appointed by President Obama in 2012. I've been on board ever since. And I'm originally from a small town in Kansas, Parsons, Kansas, about 3 hours south of here. One of the reasons I'm here is both because I love the mission of the foundation and of 1 Million Cups, but also because I truly believe in the culture of entrepreneurship that is growing in the Midwest. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, entrepreneurship was something that seemed to be relegated to Silicon Valley or to the East Coast. One of the great things about living here in this time, in this age, in part because of this broadband infrastructure that we've got, is that we have entrepreneurs like Brent, like so many others that like you, who are building, creating value in ways that we never could have conceived. And so my hope is simply to be here to learn, to be inspired, and to take back to Washington the message that Kansas City is on the map when it comes to next generation technologies and services.
Thank you. So to kick things off, we want to get started. We want to welcome John Thompson from Payit, who simplifies doing business with the local, state, and federal government with their awesome platform. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay? So I'm a founder and CEO of Payit, and this was born out of just my personal disdain for going to the DMV and just a disbelief that I still had to go to the DMV. And then it turned out there was a bigger business. So Silicon
Yes,
Valley
I'm in line and rearing to go at the DMV.
Can you believe in this day and age we still have to go into a government office to conduct business with the government? And yet the fact is, across city, state, and local government, north of 80% of all transactions, from a DMV, personal property taxes, paying a parking ticket, anything at a federal level, most of those transactions are conducted in person or with paper and a check. And we're here to change that. I don't have to tell you about the expectation gap between the way people do business in the private sector and the way we do business with the public sector. But in case you're a data geek like me, McKinsey did a study, which is awesome that somebody commissioned a study for the obvious. But here it is. Look, so what we do is we're big believers in waves and things that drive change. And the big wave is this move to mobile that everybody's familiar with. So you all know more people connect to the internet via this device than this device. And when they do, they spend about 90% of their time in apps. But that's really just kind of the high level. If you peel that data back, it's really about this move to personalization and the way we all expect things to just be consumerized. So we have a different expectation. So what we do, we're not app builders. We are platform builders. So we're biased towards platforms and data in the cloud to deliver high-end consumer-grade experiences that simplify government. Our mission is to simplify government for all of us, citizen consumers, and we do that by deploying this platform that look like apps in your hands, but hit our cloud platform, and then back into the back office of government, all to deliver a smarter experience. And I'll show you here in just a second. So we started this business about 2.5 years ago. We self-funded the first year because that's who we are in Kansas City. That's what we do. I had bootstrapped another company, a digital marketing technology company, out of the cloud, and had grown that business and was ready to go start a new business with this mission in mind. Since then, we closed a seed round in Kansas City of $1.3 million about 18 months ago. And then in January, closed a $4.5 million Series A round led by Advantage Capital Partners, a $2 billion venture capital firm out of New York, out of Midtown, that's coming here for board meetings. Support from MTC, the first check out of Royal Street Ventures, out of Park City, that's opened up a $25 million venture fund here, and some other kind of smart money, as they say in the world. So we're excited. Look, we probably all can appreciate it took us longer to do that here than it would have if we were in Austin. In fact, we turned down a lot of money to move to Austin because we're Kansas City guys. All right. And we're believers. In that time, since closing that round of money, you see we took third at South by Southwest, the Civic Tech Pitch Competition out of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and AWS GovCloud. And we're a partner platform for a lot of the U.S. DOT Smart Cities efforts. So we have a lot going on. We're really excited. We've been growing the team. We're also a part of a new market tax credit funding program. So we are down in the crossroads, but across the street from the really nice part of the crossroads. And that's important for us too. That's who we are. We're builders, not just of technology and businesses, but of communities. And so as we travel and we spend all of our time in DC or in state capitals or in city halls across the country making a difference, this is how we do it. So enough about that. Let me show you real quick. Sorry, I lost my. Let me just show you what we do for folks. All right. If this was all set up, that would have been a lot smoother. So look, one of the things we do, this should all just be different, right? The way we go do business with government should be different. So one of the things that we do, this is what we presented at South by Southwest. So the way people expect everybody to work is different. So we might say, introducing a little conversational UI for the folks that care about stuff like that. So when I sign up for an account, we might say, hey, give us your zip code. Awesome, you're in Kansas City, create an account. Now we're connected to you. And then we introduce this notion of a dashboard where I can kind of scroll up and down, and a wallet where I can scroll across. And this becomes the context for you to be served by your government in a totally different experience. So today, one of the real challenges is the government does an awesome job of creating a disconnected experience for you. So every time you have to do business with the government, it's always up to you, the consumer. What do I do? When do I do it? Where do I go? What do I need? Hope I've got it right. And you almost never do, right? And so we're here to change that. So we might say, let's add a service. Well, given where you live, maybe I got a parking ticket. Do you have the ticket with you? Yeah. Sorry to hear you got a ticket. Do you have it? Take a picture. We'll scan and read that. This is why we build platforms, not apps. We're connected into the back office, the case management system. We'd say, hey, we found it. Is this it? Yep. Do you want to take care of it? You don't have to appear in court. So we're applying data and business logic to help guide you through this process. Awesome. How do you want to take care of it? Bank account, credit card, scan, or Apple Pay. Awesome. We'll choose Apple Pay. Here you go. Here's your summary. Accept the terms and conditions. Easier said than done. Finish and pay. So PCI Level 1 compliant. Again, why you build platforms, not apps. It's all really secure. Everything's tokenized. We're finished. We dropped a receipt in your mobile wallet. Hey, it looks like you can also use the app to pay your water bill. Do you want to do that now? So yeah, I'll set that up. Fast forward. Now I'm active. So if you see, I can scroll up and down and I can see water usage. So one of the things that we can start to do by presenting you dashboards is make you a better citizen. a more engaged, more informed citizen. But we can also, as I scroll across this, deliver government to you in a totally new context. Instead of you figuring it out, we bring it right to you. So maybe I use the Metro. So the ability to do a mobile fare and just get on a bus and scan the ticket and have it right here in my wallet. Or we also are really just setting up a profile. So you identify who you are and all your touch points with government, and we serve it to you. And I won't walk you through it, and deliver alerts. So maybe this is, hey, your business license is due in 16 days. Do you want to renew it now? Yes. And we'd start walking you through this conversational UI. So all of this is identify who you are. We reach into the back-end system of government at the appropriate place and deliver the things they already know about you, so you don't have to fill forms out anymore. And this is what we do, and because it's a platform and these things are built, we roll these services out from DMV to Fish and Wildlife to property taxes in like 60 to 90 days. Oh, and we do it at no cost to the government. We just make our money on transaction fees and then provide a lot of data and analytics to make government smarter. That usually gets a laugh. But not intentionally. Any rate, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much. We'd like to go ahead and let our panelists jump in and start with questions before we open it up to the audience.
One quick question I have is what's the educational process when you approach a city government, for example? Do you meet with their CIO and have single point of contact, or do you have to go from, say, service DMV to
Yes,
trash
so
to...
no, we actually don't go into, we always talk to IT, but this isn't a tech pitch, right? So we go into the mayor's office. We want to talk to the mayor. We want to talk about people who care about making government smarter, more modern, more convenient. So we spend a lot of time in governor's offices, in mayor's offices with commissioners, people who care, who want to go make a difference, and roll this out. And one of the things you do if you build, so kind of soapbox real quick, one of the things that drives me crazy about this market is you have all the old school systems integrators and Deloitte's and all the custom software development guys saying, you're so different. You need to spend $80 million and we'll go build custom everything for you, right? And it's just not how the rest of the world, so we bring to bear private sector experience. So we intentionally kind of don't hire any public sector people. I mean that with all due respect. They're really smart, good people.
No offense.
No, sincerely, I mean, look, we spend all of our time in market, and they're really smart people whose hands are tied because they have the same old antiquated providers selling them the same old custom-built stuff, and it shifts all the risk to the government. And it's just it's not how the Fortune 500 companies acquire technology, right? You should just be able to turn it on because it's all software as a service in the cloud and deliver a tailored endpoint, right? And smart, make it more data driven. So that's what we do, which is awesome. And we're finding lots of early adopters who see it the same way.
Well, thanks a lot. Great presentation. Love the idea, the concept. This is really cool. One of the things that you mentioned, which was one of my first questions when you talked about the government services, was about the DMV. One of my pet peeves is standing in line at the DMV, right, and spending hours waiting to get my license renewed or my license plates cashed in on my new car, that type of thing, right?
Right.
So are you planning to integrate the DMV, and how does that look for the security piece of it?
Yes, that's kind of the whole point. I mean, this started, so I was CEO of Sapio here in town, if you guys know that. Ran that for 6.5 years. And I'm a Missouri resident, live in Parkville, and I got that postcard in the mail, it was time to renew tags on a vehicle. And I hit mo.gov / whatever it is, plugged in the PIN they sent me, unique identifier, right? Hold on to that. And my plate number, it said invalid. Tried to look myself up, couldn't find myself. Yep. And so went to the DMV.
You have to run in there, right?
Right, so I spent the afternoon at the DMV, and while I was there just kind of working. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And at the time, we were working with some of the coolest brands. We were helping GM sell parts in 100 countries in 30 languages and currencies through a data-driven platform in the cloud. And we just thought, so we're government geeks, right? So we're tech geeks, government geeks. And my business partner and I, co-founder Mike Plunkett, we go back through Missouri Boys State. So we went to Boys State a long time ago. And then we're on the volunteer staff for a long time. And so we're kind of just drawn to this market and then some of the really unique challenges in this market. that we feel we have a good feel for how to go solve in partnership with government. But our mission, when we tell people, make no mistake, is to serve the citizen consumer. We just have found the best way to do that is to partner so we can get access to all the back-end data so that we can deliver these really tailored experiences that are. So what happens then is you get instead of a postcard and then you go fill out a form and then go to the DMV because it didn't work, we just send you an alert, either mobile, web, or email, or connect with you and say, it's 30 days to your renewal. Is this your Prius? Yes, card on file, done. And then we drop that official registration renewal receipt into your wallet.
I love it. So the second part of that question was on the security piece of it. How do you handle all your data security around your user profiles, user accounts?
Yeah, smartly. So
Sure.
from
That's
the
great.
ground up, built for a market, right? So technology is always purpose-built to solve problems in a given market. Should be, which is another intentional knock against custom software development from these same old vendors that we see all over the place that are just robbing government blind. That's official. At any rate, you see these things that just are it's incredible. I mean, what a country when somebody can get $75 million to deliver really bad software that they build. It's absurd. But so all of this, so everything lives in the GovCloud. Everything is fully encrypted. There's no data on device. So even when things look like it's on device, nothing on device. And then smarter people than me, so a microservices-based, platform, smarter people than me that have a lot of, security chops and technology could answer your question way more specifically. But we always go through some sort of security audit as we're wiring all this stuff up and always pass with flying colors. And in fact, have helped rewrite security policy as a byproduct of this in several engagements. So, anyway.
I'm just curious how many users you have now,
Not
how
nearly
many
enough.
transactions you've done. And
No, man, almost it's inconsequential right now. And we're basically, we're not pre-revenue, but it rounds to pre-revenue. But in our business, we're focused on winning contracts with state and local government. So you go win that contract so you can go integrate and then deliver this experience, and that's what we're doing. And then we go onboard users, and that's part of what we help them do is drive adoption, right? So that they get the benefit of delivering the smarter experience to their constituents, which matters a lot. So on that front, we've won contracts a couple of contracts in Kansas, so you can manage your K-tag with us now. We are deploying, we have a contract with KDOT to do digital truck permitting. So if you do an over-dimension permit today, it's as you drive these trucks multi-jurisdictionally, I don't think that's actually a word, but across jurisdictions, it's all paper-based, so you call an office and trying to navigate what permits you need. So in that case, we just profile the CDL holder, they modify their loads, we submit, the route gets approved, because Google doesn't know if the bridge is tall enough for your overheight load. So today they would get just a piece of paper map. So we plot that back onto device for them in a wallet so they can get turn by turn. And then we share all that data back with the agency. So you get a lot of good data about where things are moving. And there's just so much rich data that we provide back into reports and analytics. And one of the kind of common themes of the people in our business is we all have big data backgrounds. So that's super interesting about how do you make government more effective while you make citizens' lives better. Right.
the other question was, could you ever envision expanding this to an enterprise solution? Because I know that a lot of businesses have to deal with a huge number of agencies, have to hire a whole bunch of staff just for compliance and that kind of thing. Do you see a future where that?
Absolutely. So we're working on scenarios where, another reason you build platform is not just so you can deliver really unique experiences at an endpoint, but so that you can share data and facilitate enterprise, what we would consider enterprise or intra-agency experiences. So a great example, a tag renewal in a state where there's tolls and turnpikes. So they all use this thing called registration hold. So if you blow through the toll and you don't have a pike pass or whatever it might be, they take a photo of your plate and then they mail you a bill. And then people don't pay those bills. But what you don't know is the law says they will after a certain period of time, they'll place a hold on your registration, so you can't go renew your tax until you pay that. And so you walk into the DMV and you're already there, and then they say, you got to call this number. You owe somebody something. So you leave, right? And then you call and you pay $20 and you come back. So what we do, part of our answer, and we're working on these things now, into contract is, so because of this platform, so we would dynamically on your phone just modify, hey, it looks like you owe $20 on a toll. Do you want to pay that? Yes. And then continue in the workflow. And then we route the money and all the data in the back office. So Citizen has this great experience. They take care of both things. We facilitate and then release the hold, so in that real time we can process. So it's all about smarter and smarter and smarter. And for us, then it's iterate. So you go do one thing really well, and then you layer in the next thing's value to a citizen and value to the government, if you will. So anyway.
Got another question for you here to your left.
This is a wonderful idea. I don't know how many times I scream at the radio when I hear about government leaders contracting for extremely expensive and yet inefficient and user unfriendly systems that I constantly encounter when I go visit government officials. I swear that a lot of the software that's being developed are people who grew up in the DOS age. So I have two questions. The first one is, you used Kansas City examples. Is it implemented in Kansas City, and does it go as far as doing things like paying income taxes? The second, because Kansas City has a very inefficient system for doing that. The second question has to do with the fact that your website is MobileGov and not Pay It.
Right.
So have you thought about integrating your services with a broader level of activities that happen in government? Kansas City, for example, has a government official, I think it might be a director of innovation, and many agencies do this. So have you thought about using this same methodology for tackling problems with payments to do things like report water leaks, potholes, and so forth?
Yeah, so a lot in there. Those are good observations, good questions. So we see it a lot the same way. It's a common frustration. So one, not live in Kansas City yet. I think you'll see that. But the mayor is an incredible advocate of the city, of technology, of entrepreneurs. So we've spent time, and I think you'll see some things coming hopefully soon. So that said, the other answer is yes. So we have a contract in St. Louis with the collector's office. You'll see that roll out. That'll include utility bills. It'll include personal property tax payments, real estate, earnings tax, et cetera. And it's, for us, the reason you build a platform is these things look like consumer. So who are you? What do we know about you? What do you need to go do? And then they're just transactions. So think of us, to an investor, we would talk about we're the verticalization of payment for government, right? That takes all the friction. So it's remittance plus payment plus data, right? That's kind of what we do. And then these are all transaction fees, recurring revenue streams, which of course, so I'm a big believer in you can do good and build a big business, that those things aren't mutually exclusive. And that's what we're doing. But then your last point about the money, I can't tell you how many conversations we've had where people have told us it'd be just so much easier to write you a $40 million check to go build something under kind of this old model, and we tell them no, which is so stupid. And I literally have argued with the secretary, which is so dumb too, right? About the right way to pay and the right way. But part of it is we want to, look, you know where this is gonna go. You know how it needs to go to get to the right place for everybody. And we're just believers, man, if you just stick to that and you know what works, that pays off in spades for everybody. And it's not because I don't like doing big deals. That's kind of what I like to do. But at any rate.
Question in the back here, John.
Yeah.
Yes, so if I get pulled over and the officer asks me for my driver's license, registration, and insurance, do you see a time when I could just Bluetooth that to him rather than digging through my glove compartment looking for the documentation that I may or may not have put there for this time?
Yes, I don't know about Bluetooth, but I can tell you that, so we do tag renewals in Pennsylvania, and there's actually so we do a ton of, we're really user and data driven. So we track everything inside the app, what works, what doesn't work, and we're constantly refactoring because that's how we make money. We like to make money. And but there's a really great anecdotal story of a guy in Pennsylvania outside of Philly got pulled over, expired tags. And the guy said, "Hey, while I'm standing here, if you'll renew your tags, I won't write you a ticket." He downloaded the app and renewed his tags in like 2 minutes while he was sitting there, and went about his way. And we're like, yes. Right?
Got another question here in the middle.
Yeah.
So this is a great solution if the government has the APIs, right? A payment-based API or even a data query API. Do those actually exist, or are you having to build those?
So some of both. So I spent a lot of time looking for failure points before my wife agreed I could quit a really good situation with a toddler. So we spent a lot of time in the bowels of DMV IT and in a lot of places, because that's the big question, can you get to the data? Because if you can't get to the data, it gets really hard. Turns out you can, right? So we just need some sort of web service, and if they don't have a web service or an API, so part of what we do in our platform is introduce a service bus, enterprise service bus, so we get really good at doing those integrations. That said, you can only imagine, whatever you're thinking of that you're gonna find in the back office in government, it's worse. And I know how bad you think it is, it's worse. I mean, it's, there is literally a story of a state where they were trying to migrate off an old system and the last terminal broke and they had to call a museum to get a replacement part. So what we find is most of them have, because there's some sort of online experience, there's some sort of way to get to the data, and then part of what we do is if we need to, we'll modernize it. We'll write an API for them. So it's a discipline in our business, as you would expect. And so we're happy to do that because they're fast, right? These are like a tag renewal, it's like 10 to 12 data points. These aren't like, it's not like a big ERP implementation. So we literally can write those, and we'll do them either, from kind of our platform into a web service layer, or we'll build that web service for them, or we'll do it right into the database in the application, and we can do them in like a day. They're pretty easy, and we're pretty good at it. So that's part of what we do is facilitate this. And it also, frankly, it makes it easier for us then to go provide more and more value, because you also build a lot of trust and relationship.
We've got another question here to your left. We've got about 2 minutes left here, so maybe just a few more questions.
What's there not to love about this? So my question is...
Great question.
What are the common pushback reasons that you hear from governments and why they would not want this?
Yeah, so, I tell people, whether they're wanting to come to work with us or an investor, hey, the worst part of what we do is we do business with government, right? It just is what it is, right? But the best part of what we do is we do business with government. And it's just personally extremely rewarding to think about the wake you want to leave and doing something of consequence. So that said, the absolute worst is not a no or not a, I don't think this will work or that'll work, or we have too much going on. The worst, and it happens a lot, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, is the yes blank that you get. Oh, great, yeah, we'd love to do this, we'll do this, definitely, yeah, let's do it. And then 12 months later, nothing, right? Or it's just, they aren't good at procurement at all. In Trenton, I was just telling the story about being in Trenton 2 weeks ago, and the executive director of a large agency said, yes, this is, of course we would go do this, but we'd do it tomorrow, but it'll take us 18 months to get into a $0 contract. So, but that's what you sign up. I mean, you have to have a long-term view of this stuff and then go make progress every day, which is, look, if this were easy, I wouldn't be standing here. Somebody, you'd already be doing this stuff that way. But it is important, it's necessary, and frankly, it's a massive market. It's a massive market, and that matters to us. We want to build a big business.
One more quick question here, John.
I had two observations. One is one of personal security information for
Sure.
individuals and all of this data that's out there. So how much resistance do you get for the government releasing that, and how confident can you make the consumers feel, that
Yeah.
why does this company have my information? How do they get access to this information?
Yeah, great question. So one, we're more secure than most. You'd be shocked if you are making a phone call, how many times your credit card is just getting written down. These guys fail PCI audits all the time. So what we're doing is far more secure than a lot of times what they're doing. Like I mentioned, we're updating security policy for people because they'll give us their security policy and say, hey, we can't sign up for this, that, and this, and this, because that would degrade our capabilities, right? I mean, it's just antiquated. So how's that as a place to start? The other thing is, on a consumer basis, our belief and our bet is, look, we're not for everybody. We get that. We don't care. We want to go win people who are mobile first, and this is where they live their life and do everything, right? I'm one of those people. I'm sure people here probably skew that way, a little more tech sophisticated, tech savvy. The Fed published a paper about a year ago. The number one criteria for choosing a bank or switching to banks is mobile check deposit, which speaks volumes about where the consumer is. We all know this already, but it's just another data point and proof that I'm a geek because I read papers out of the Fed. But that said, the trade in consumer is data for convenience, right? So the more I share, the better you can serve me. And we go prove it one transaction at a time. And then it's up to you, right? So if we haven't shifted the ledger, in your opinion, then you won't sign up, you won't use us. But our bet is too, because we organize and then just let you know it's time, and you don't have to go figure it out every time. And we can just say, yep, that's it, card on file, I'm done. Oh, you hunt, you want deer tags? Yes, card on file, and I'm done. And it's in my wallet. We think that's really compelling. And so we're educating the market and then winning users kind of one at a time. But we see really good data on that. There's a clear, there's even just anecdotally in this room, interest, right? So, but they're all good questions and all obstacles we think about a lot, right?
All right, John, so the last 1 million cups iconical question.
Uh-oh.
What can we as a community do to help you?
Tweet the mayor and ask him when we're launching Pay It Kansas City.
So that better be trending in like 5 minutes, everyone.
Yeah. Kansas City's been phenomenal, and Rick and Sly, the mayor, and the city manager.
Rick Usher's in the corner
Incredible.
for the record.
No, hey, we're believers in Kansas City. We could have easily moved this business somewhere else. You can't imagine. You know how many governors have said, when are you going to be our state business? Never, right? I mean, we'll be in market. We'll probably hire people there, but we're building this business in Kansas City because this is who we are. Mr. Mayor.
You hear that, Sly? You hear that,
Yeah.
Sly? All right, thank you, John.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, so we're going to get the presentation switched out here. And before announcements, we're going to do this because I always forget to do it. So who has been to 1 Million Cups 10 times? Show of hands. Who is not part of the Mug Club? Okay, I was going to say, Rick, you're in the Mug Club, right? Not part of the Mug Club. We only have 2? That's it? All right, well, this is coming straight to you, sir. Stand up, tell us who you are and why you're here every week.
I'm Chris Foster. I'm a local songwriter, composer, arranger, and performer, musician. And I write songs for people, and I write songs for businesses. And I'm very happy to be here because I just love the energy that this room creates. It's a wonderful synergy that I feel. I was just telling somebody this morning, I just feel great synergy when I come to that. KC's a place to be. I feel very blessed to be part of this community. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, so speaking of Rick Usher, he always calls 1 Million Cups the Church of Entrepreneurship. So if you would open your hymnals. Jumping in here. So co-working Wednesdays, every Wednesday, as we know, happening at ECJC right now, not Sprint Accelerator. 1MC for artists, Guild It, happening tomorrow from 12 to 1 at the Kemper Museum. And then we have something special happening at ECJC tomorrow as well, pitching to investors. So if anybody out there, you got a company, you need some money to actually make that company happen, look into that. My man, Luke Wade. Luke, put your hand up. He is doing the Snapchat social media of Kansas City Club breakfast on Friday. Myself and a couple other Bloomers will be there. I think there's tickets left, so hop on that. And last but not least, barbecue and the streetcar. Two things that Sly is very excited about. Anna's excited too. You had your coffee, didn't you? All right, good. So Friday, May 6th from 5 to 9 at Think Big. There's going to be a bunch of barbecue, a bunch of people, and a bunch of fun. So come on down. And with that said, we're opening up to A-Ride.
A-Ride.
Take
All
it.
right. Hey, everybody. My name is Abe Hussein. I'm the CEO of A-Ride. Our slogan is what rideshare is meant to be. I'm assuming everybody here, or at least most everybody here, has heard of Uber or have used their service. Uber has changed the way we get around as a nation or in the world, pretty much. And they've created a whole new industry called the rideshare industry, and a big part of the sharing economy. It was a new idea, a great idea at the time, but a lot of people don't know kind of what's going on behind the scenes with Uber. A lot of the way it's going, it's kind of become more about greed, and it's kind of headed in the wrong direction. And that's why A-Ride was formed. Basically myself, I'm a former Uber driver last year since March, and I started driving, started to get connected with other drivers, and started to see what really was going on behind the scenes, and started to see that most drivers were getting paid below minimum wage after all the taxes and not taxes, but all the expenses taken out. And but kind of their perception is Uber drivers make all this money, and a lot of stuff's all fairy tales and rainbows. But behind the scenes, drivers are really not happy with the way things are going. And that's me in front of the Uber office in San Francisco last year. Basically, I started to organize drivers here in Kansas City to kind of like protest and like strike against Uber to kind of raise the treatment that we get. And long story short, they deactivated me for doing that because they started to get a lot of traction. So that's when I got really frustrated and started to take this to a new level, and I organized the biggest Uber driver strike in Uber history in last year of October. We actually formed a business over it, kind of like an unofficial union, and that's the logo there. It's called Uber Strike Movement Association. That's an actual company that we have, and we had a website, uberstrike.com, where we kind of got drivers on board and kind of just started to raise awareness to riders and everybody about how rideshare is going. And we've got a lot of traction and got the largest following of Uber drivers and Uber riders and Uber community. My Facebook page is Uber Freedom. We're at 27,000 followers now. And if you just Google my name, you'll see all the Uber stories that I've been involved with. Former KC Uber driver organizes a nationwide strike. The Pandos called me the movement leader of our times. And so that's kind of what kind of leading the movement to get better treatment for Uber, from Uber drivers. And so I started to form the association and started to form the union. But pretty much we sat down with Uber officials in a lot of cities, New York and Kansas City as well. And they said, no matter what you do, we're not going to listen to you guys. We don't care. We'll never do. And our demand is pretty simple. Put a tip option on the app and do simple things. And they said, we're not going to do that. So fast forward, and that's where we're at. Or actually, this slide I tell you is, that's where A-Ride was formed. But this is actually I went to a conference last week called Collision in New Orleans to raise money from investors. And a lot of people think the surge pricing that Uber does is kind of helps with supply and demand. But doing New Orleans, it rained really hard and started flash flooding. And of course, when people need Uber the most, that's when they started surging. And at the same time, we took a screenshot of the platform, which kind of shows no cars available. So the whole point of surge pricing that raises demand is kind of a big lie and big scam that we're trying to break that scheme, because before the rideshare industry, taxis never did surge pricing, and it's kind of a set price, a fair price forever, and everybody can count on that price. When they get dropped off, they can count on paying the same price when they get picked up. So that's when A-Ride was formed. Basically, we're here to change the whole industry. We're able to actually charge less than Uber, but still make drivers more money. We have a referral marketing aspect to where each driver is tagged to other drivers, and they get a commission off each driver's sales each week. So they're able to get more money that way, while we can still charge the consumer less. We also have a tip option in the app where drivers can make money for that. But not only that, but riders actually make money with A-Ride. Basically, if you refer a rider to use A-Ride, you get tagged to that rider, and each ride they take for life, you get a commission off of as well. So it's kind of a true sharing economy where everybody's get a piece of the pie, and where potentially riders can make more money from referring other people than they could from driving itself. And that's kind of what the whole sharing economy is supposed to be about, Airbnb, and it's kind of like everybody's sharing goods and services for one another, and this concept is more about where everybody gets an equal share compared to a few people at the top getting the most of the money on the backs of workers. And pretty much our target market here is Kansas City. We're launching here in Kansas City this summer, just because I'm from Kansas City and I know the market. I've been born and raised here. I know a lot of people here, and it's fairly cheap compared to other cities to get started here for rideshare. So our plan is to start in Kansas City and pretty much dominate the entire market of rideshare industry. Uber is obviously dominating the transportation industry, and they've kind of taken over the taxis and limos, and a lot of hardship there from taxi drivers. But I think rideshare is the future of transportation, because obviously it's a better way to get around, a lot cheaper. So our goal here is to take over the entire market nationwide. We're trying to launch here in the summer and expand very, very rapidly. That's about it.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started with our panelists before we open it up to the audience.
Well, thanks, Abe, for talking about A-Ride. That's a pretty cool concept about the sharing the responsibility and sharing the economy of scale, right, that you would have with your drivers and being able to take home fair pay to your drivers. When you approached Uber, what were some of the requests that you made so that you could have a fair wage coming back to the driver of an Uber driver?
Yeah, our we had 4 major requests when we first started the whole kind of movement. Was put a tip option on the app, and to raise the cancellation fee from $5 to $7, which is basically because a lot of times drivers will go pick up somebody, wait about 5-10 minutes and use the gas and expenses, and then they'll wait another 5 or 10 minutes for the person to come out, and then for whatever reason the person would cancel the ride. And at $5, you actually, when you subtract Uber's fee, which is actually used to be $1 for their insurance fee. They used to charge $1 per ride. Now they're charging $1.90 per ride, but they're still keeping the minimum fare the same, which basically means that Uber took a raise where the drivers took a deep cut. This was just recently, a few months ago. But you subtract that, then you subtract their 20%, which actually just raised to 25%, and it used to be 10%. So they keep taking more and more and more. And once you subtract Uber's fee, the Safe Ride fee, and then you subtract your expenses that it took to get you to that location and waiting time, you're left with literally pennies. So that's why we asked to raise the minimum fare and cancellation a couple of dollars, and the tip option. And I'm sorry, I forgot the other 4th request. But that's basic options, nothing crazy. But they literally said, we will never put a tip option on the app. We don't care. They actually just wrote an article about it. Finally, they exposed, or they told people why they don't want to put tip option app, because they said that it would force drivers to not go to low-income areas because they don't feel like they'll get tipped, which that doesn't make any sense at all, because we already go to every location that they take us to. So that's why that's what we did, and they said we don't care, we're not going to listen. So it's kind of like no matter what we did. We even did New York. We had over 1,000 car blockade. It was all over nationwide media, and we blocked the streets. And that's, everybody's like, what's going on? Why are we blocking the streets? And nothing changed, not at all.
So with your rollout this summer, so does that mean you have some technology in place, like an app, so that folks like ourselves could sign up for A-Ride rather than going to Uber? And how do you kind of want to capture that David versus Goliath kind of mentality that Uber's kind of captured the market here in KC? Yeah,
the app's already in the stores. You can download it now. It's A-Ride, iPhone and Android. So that's already going. Yeah, it's David and Goliath all over it, but kind of Uber started as David and Goliath story with the taxi industry, and so look how fast they grew over 5 years. We pretty much, we figured if you deliver a superior product with a better price and better service, the market kind of just takes, it's whoever does better service wins. So with our approach, there's generally no reason why somebody would continue to use the competition over A-Ride, because there's no logical reason for you to do that, because you're paying less and you're getting money as a rider and a driver. So I'm sure if you're an Uber rider in here, you probably know 1 or 2 Uber riders you can say, hey, use this service instead, and each ride they take for life you get a commission off of. So I feel like if we can just if we can get the word out there enough in Kansas City, that people will start flocking like really very fastly.
I had a chance to meet with Lyft recently, and one of the things I was impressed with was their back office analytics. And so, for example, for the product Lyft Line that they use, it's really incredible the sophistication that goes into figuring out which drivers are available at what times. Are they going in the same direction as you? I'm just curious what kind of work you've done on the back end to make sure that from the consumer perspective, it's a pretty seamless experience.
Sure. Well, I'm not an app developer or a tech guy, so the app itself is developed by people that do that as a profession. So it's basically the app itself works almost exactly the same as Uber or Lyft. We don't have like an A-Ride line or it's called Uber Pool, which is similar to Lyft line. From my experience as a driver standpoint, is all the drivers hate that. They all hate the Uber line and the Uber Pool and the Lyft line. I understand it kind of saves the consumer money, but a lot of people don't realize that it decreases the driver's pay even more. So our goal here is to make this as fair as possible. So that's why we added the referral marketing aspect, so where consumers can pay less and they can get money by referring other riders. So that's kind of our way to make up for, like an Uber Pool, which is not even in Kansas City yet, or a Lyft line. But we have, as far as back office stuff goes, like I said, the whole idea about surge pricing is to increase the demand for the drivers to go to that location, but that's kind of just not how it is. As a rural driver's 101, as a basic driver, you learn it's called never chase surge. Basically, if you have a map as a driver, shows you what's surging area and what's not surging. The ideal is drivers go drive to that surge area, but after about couple of days of driving, you realize that chasing surge, all that does is you just waste money and gas going there, because by the time you get there, the surge is gone. So we don't feel like surge pricing necessarily moves cars around. So we're going to basically just launch with the app basic like the Uber with no surge, and it's going to be pretty much already in place where most of the rides are going to be downtown, because where most people are, whereas as far as out north, there'll be less rides. So naturally, drivers will kind of just go to where the business is at.
Obviously, Uber, Lyft, all these companies have dealt with some of the incumbent taxi cab industries who have gotten local governments to try to regulate them pretty heavily. I'm just curious what your take on that is, and would that kind of regulation affect your business model?
Well, that's the great thing about this time is this is the perfect opportunity for a new company to come in. It's just like Netflix and Blockbuster, or I compare myself to MySpace and Facebook. It's like Uber has already paved the way for us. Like before last year, I don't know if you're familiar with what all the big battle with City Council here in Kansas City was. I was at all those meetings, kind of fighting it out with City Council. At the time, I was pro Uber. I was like, we need to save Uber in Kansas City and all that stuff. We had a T-shirt on and talking with the mayor and stuff. But they've kind of came in and did the work for us. They've already paid millions of dollars to lobby the City Council and Congress, and they've already got their people in there, lawyers. So now we just come in as a new company, pay their permit fee, and we're good to go. Because before, we couldn't do any of that. They'd be like, we can't even operate at all. So Uber's made it so easy for somebody just to come in, kind of follow their footsteps and do it right, to kind of take the market share away, which is what we're trying to do. So as far as regulations go, we're not going to go to cities that are having problems like Miami, Houston. They're having major problems. We're not going to even mess with that. So we're just going to let Uber do that, and then we'll just kind of come in when they deal with it. So that's where we're at.
We're going to open it up for questions. I think there's one on the back right. Yep, got one for you right here, Abe.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm really curious. Oh, here. Hi.
Okay, I was like, where are you at?
I'm curious. Can you explain exactly how the share model works? So as a driver, say I'm out there all day long, and then one driver comes out. You said they were sharing their commissions. What's my incentive for working all day long if I'm going to be sharing that? So I'm just kind of curious how you're going to get drivers on the app and how they're going to make more money if they're sharing with everyone else.
Yeah, let me clarify that. That's not really what I meant. I meant like if you're a driver and you refer another driver, then they use your code, and then you get 3% of their sales, of their driving sales. So nothing is like your actual driving fares have nothing. They will not go to other drivers. If that makes sense. So we're going to take. That's another thing I should mention. Uber's, like I said, here in Kansas City, are taking 25%. We're only going to be taking 15%, and not including the 3% goes back to the drivers for referral commissions. And we have it set up to where you can't even sign up as a driver unless you put in another driver's referral code, pretty much ensuring that each driver is tagged to at least one other driver, so they're having multiple streams of income. That's what I mean by sharing the ride. And that actually brings me to another point, though, is the insurance. Right now, the Uber is they raised the fee, like I said, from $1 to $1.90 for their insurance fee or booking fee, but that goes straight to Uber. Where we're having it set up to where there's a new insurance for rideshare just came out last month. It's kind of going to change the whole game to where each driver now can be rideshare commercially insured 24/7. Where compared to Uber, it's only when their app is on picking up the customer, when the rider's in the car, that's only when the commercial insurance kicks in. To where there's a new company that is providing the similar service for 24/7, and it's really cheap. And we're going to have it set up to where we're going to have the insurance fee, but instead of it going to us, it's going back straight to the drivers to pay for their insurance. So basically, drivers can also get free insurance driving for A-Ride. So it's like literally they're getting over 90% of the fare goes back to the drivers, and the riders are paying less. So there's kind of like no way. I mean, there's no reason to continue to use Uber. If that answers your question.
Question on your left.
Can you use both, as a driver, use both companies? I work for you, then I work for Uber, or do you have to go steal some Uber drivers, or where are you getting your drivers from?
Sure. Well, we've already, I wouldn't say all the drivers, but people know who I am in the driver community already. So like they've been following my page, Uber Freedom, on Facebook for quite some time. So getting drivers is not really the problem. But actually, we encourage that when we're starting out. We actually encourage it. Why risk? To use both apps. Just have both apps on. Whatever you get a request for, use that. Whereas compared to Uber, as drivers are actually being deactivated, which is their term of firing drivers for using Uber and Lyft or another competitor. So Uber highly discourages that. But we actually encourage that, especially in the beginning, so that way we can get more drivers and to encourage them to. There's no risk on their part to download the app and use that as well as using Uber. Which actually brings me to our point, is also we're trying to expand the pool of drivers so we can get pretty much everybody can become a driver or rider, to where Uber only has your car has to be 10 years or newer to drive for Uber. So we've decreased that to 16 years or newer, which kind of opens up a whole new wide of range of drivers that we can bring on board to service the Kansas City area.
Questions?
I have a quick question for you, Abe. To kind of piggyback off the previous question, are there background checks associated with the drivers? How safe are they?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same process as Uber. I know Uber's getting a lot of backlash because a lot of drivers going crazy. There's a driver that went on that shooting spree a few months ago. There's kidnappings and rapings, but in their defense, though, they have millions of drivers. I mean, these things are bound to happen. I mean, they happen in taxi industries too. With anytime you get a pool of that many people, even if you do a background check, fingerprinting check, whatever you do, sometimes you just can't prevent things like this from happening. I mean, the guy who went on the shooting spree, he didn't have a criminal history. These things just happen. So as far as background checks go, yes, we do background checks. This pretty much whatever the city requires is kind of what we're trying to do. So we're not going to go above that. But I mean, like as far as fingerprinting goes, that's a big issue right now with people. Uber is trying to prevent fingerprinting, which I really don't. We don't have an issue with fingerprinting. Just if that's what it comes down to, we'll do that. But yeah, as far as background checks go, the background checks, driving record check, but also we go a step above and beyond that. Whereas right now as Uber, you don't have to show Uber your car. For all they know, you can just be taking pictures of somebody else's car, and you can send that to them, and that's what they go off of. They go off what you send them and your pictures, whereas drivers has to actually meet with us in person to show us their car, and so that way we know it's actually their car. So that's another kind of barrier of protection that we're doing.
Great, thank you. We've got another question for you here.
This is a very dynamic market. How will you respond if Uber adapts their business model to be more aligned with yours?
Sure. Well, I can pretty much guarantee that Uber will not follow our business plan because they're losing so much money right now. Their overhead is so ridiculously high right now. They lost over $1 billion in China last year. I'm predicting Uber to actually cave here in the next few years. I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, I'm in it. I'm kind of in the community. I know the rideshare business, and they are barely hanging on. I mean, obviously they're really, really big. They have a lot of money, but that's also because they over-evaluated. They're worth over $62 billion, and they're only a 6-year-old company. So I mean, their valuation is way out of line. I think. I mean, it's the way they're spending money. For example, like when I first started, I made my Facebook page, Uber Freedom, was created just to refer other drivers. So I promoted, driving for Uber, and I got 111 drivers to sign up in 2 weeks. Out of those 111, only one actually started driving. So that means Uber paid for 110 background checks for pretty much no reason. So they're kind of just blowing through money right now with just kind of like, like crazy. So for them to drop their commissions they take by 10% and then start paying riders and then put a tip option on, I guarantee they will never do that. So I'm not worried about Uber. They're probably going to try to sue us, which is fine. But as far as the changing the policies go, that's definitely not going to happen.
Got a question over here for you, Abe. Kind of a brand positioning question. So you had 6 minutes there, and I think during maybe 4 of it, you were talking about Uber versus 2 minutes about your solution to the problems that Uber has kind of created. So Uber's kind of laid all this groundwork for you, but are you the anti-Uber or are you A-Ride?
Sure. No, I get that a lot actually. I'm kind of extremist as far as, also I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for presentations, so kind of trying to make it quick as possible. No, I'm kind of an activist at heart. I mean, I've been on pretty much every national media outlet, Business Insider, American Greed. ABC did an undercover investigation special on me from another company, not Uber, but another company I was kind of fighting for people, fighting for little guys. There was a big Ponzi scheme called the Global Information Network, but I pretty much helped people get their money back that they were wronged, and all over the nationwide media over that. So I'm kind of an activist fighting for a little guy at heart. So I am extreme at times. People tell me all the time, we need to kind of tone it down. Don't go anti-Uber, kind of be pro A-Ride, which is definitely, something probably I should work on. But no, I mean, I'm just trying to get people to get across people's mind as to where, Uber is taking this in the wrong direction and making it about greed, and people aren't really making money. Only the people at the top are making money. So A-Ride is here to make a true sharing economy, and that's why rideshare was born, to make a sharing economy. So we're trying to make it what it's meant to be by giving everybody a piece of the pie and give everybody ownership of it. So that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely, and I think you're absolutely on the right track with it. The one thing I would suggest would be, you can say a lot about Uber being negative without ever using their name. You can make it very, very clear what you are, being completely the antithesis of what they are without ever saying we're not Uber, just saying what you are. So you're heading in the right direction, but I mean, just think that part through a little more, and I think you're onto something.
No, I appreciate that. No, you're probably right.
Question in your back right.
I agree with Zach, by the way. You can show all your positives without saying the negatives. But so question is, you said Uber's losing tons of money. You obviously care about the drivers and them making money. So are you a nonprofit? And how are you guys going to make money when Uber's the biggest one out there losing money?
Sure. Well, the main reason they're losing money is because they're growing so fast. I mean, that's why we're only launching in Kansas City. It's a lot easier to launch just in one city than to grow crazy fast. So, but we ran the numbers. I mean, we're able to take a lot less percentage and still maintain profit. I mean, overhead is pretty much very, very low. I mean, we're talking like small office space. We're going to probably start maybe one staff member, maybe nobody, just kind of see how much money we're raising from investors this coming weeks. But as far as overhead goes, it's very, very low starting out. So we don't want to get to that point where they're going to, we're growing so fast where our overhead grows so fast, because our whole point is to maintain low overhead so we can continue to take lower commissions from drivers so we can still maintain profit. So I mean, even if we take, 10% of the market in Kansas City, that's still a huge profit margin. So I mean, 15%. Actually, from the 15% we're taking, actually only 7% is going to us actually, because 8% is going to the referral commissions. 5% goes to the riders. 3% goes to the drivers. So still with that 7% though, we're still able to maintain profit.
So before we get to our final question, and I just want to preface this to the audience, I want to especially thank Abe for being here today. We had a last minute cancellation yesterday, so he stepped up. Like, he was supposed to present at the end of the month, and he stepped up to present today. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. But final question, what can we as a community do to help you?
Yeah, I mean, you can help us spread the word, download the app. If you know any drivers, we're starting to get drivers on board pretty much this month. We're still in the pre-launch phase. We're hoping to launch this summer. So, you know, it's, if you know any drivers, send them my way. Send them an email. I think on the emails on the brochures I have on there, support@aride.com. And if you know of any investors, we're in kind of the seed round right now. We're talking with several investors right now, but trying to get the amount of funding we need to get going as soon as possible so we can launch here in summertime, which is the busiest time.
Thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Okay, we will see you all next week. The presenters are Social Capital, which is actually at Techstars this month, and then also Tether Tug, which I believe is a dog toy. So we will see you next month. Bye.